Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we watch Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull like an old man, 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
Tom, disengage. I'm Pete Mummer.
I'm Gerald Christopher, single-sided saber porter.
And I'm Josh Horowitz, back again from joshhorowitz.com. Hey.
How'd that happen? That wasn't expected.
Know. Well, I was in this bag, and I kept getting moved from duck to duck. I don't know.
We found out last week that you were actually, that you had been a fencer in college. Yeah. And so we huddled after the show and we said, no, we had that Olympic guy, the Olympic fencer on deck for these minutes. But yeah, screw it. Let's just get Josh back. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We also found out it's not a duck. It's a Gaz 69.
Oh, that's right. We were corrected in the Facebook group Listeners Crusade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gaz 69.
Gaz, yeah. And there's, people should go to the Indiana Jones Listeners Crusade on Facebook, and where
you will find us corrected every day.
Yeah,
that's right.
we get a drubbing.
Yeah, black and blue from
well deserved.
Yeah,
in most cases.
Yes, no, it is. There's all sorts of fun stuff on there.
Yeah. Oh, and who knows what they'll say about minute 80. Because this is minute 80 and it begins with Mutt engaging Spalko in an inter-vehicle fencing match. And it ends with Mutt almost getting hit in the yarbles by a tree.
Yarbles.
So speaking of yarbles, the previous minute, there was a little bit more in the script that didn't get filmed apparently, or if they filmed it, they didn't put it into the movie.
Well, I forgot.
You remember Mac punches the soldier after the soldier tosses the skull to Spalko?
Yeah.
And in the script, Mac turns back to Indy and he's still pleading his case.
Oh,
and
really?
Mac says, "You think General Ross just happened to turn up in Nevada to bail you out? I sent him. He's my control agent." And he looks at Indy and he goes, "See?" And Indy turns to Mac and says, "Why didn't you say so before?" And Mac says, "What do you want me to do? Paint it on my ass?"
Yeah, actually, that might be helpful.
Yeah, it'd be a good visual.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't do any accents. Sorry.
It might
that would have sounded better.
You painted a good picture.
It might sort of illuminate some things in this movie.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I said this last time. I honestly forget. I know he turns again, but I forget if it's more of like a personal turn. Like, I am CIA, but you know what? Money.
Do you really like all that back and forth, though, that's going on? I mean, I can kind of see why they would cut it. It does get a little bit too much.
It is, but I don't know. Every time I hear about most of the cut stuff I hear about, I'm like, oh, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, hold on. Now, this particular one, except for Paint It on My Ass, this particular one, I think would have served the movie better, and it would have made more sense. Yeah,
I like the General Ross thing.
Yeah,
because Indy seems like he trusts Mac way too soon, and that the Bob Ross thing makes it a little more sense.
Well, it puts a little bit of foundation behind all this flip flopping, and this mercuriality. Is that the word? Mercurialness.
And if he does flip again and it's like a personal greed thing, it's a little more of a shock. Like the way it is now, it's sort of like, oh, you were this, then you were this, then you were this, then you were this. I've lost track and who cares? But if you had like the kind of, no, I seriously, honest to God, I'm CIA, Ross was my guy. I was totally connected. I was helping you out back then. He's like solidly on Indy's side. And then he turns again. Then you're like, oh, wait a minute.
But that's it's better this way because then you're now it's definitive. He's on Indy's side. He's CIA good. I know where I stand with him for the rest of the movie, and I can relax.
Right now, he could just be saying anything. Yeah, Berlin. Right. I meant that I was a Russian agent, or no, I meant I was CIA. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and also would explain maybe a little bit about Ross there too. I remember back then we were kind of like, what are these guys doing again, and why don't they believe Indy? Mm-hmm. And they're giving him it just creates, I don't know.
Wait, remind me again who Ross is?
He's the guy, he's Penny's dad from Lost who shows up. He's like a general or something. I think he is a general. Yeah. He's not the General Ross from the Hulk. He's the General Ross from this. And he comes in as Indy's being interrogated after Area 51.
The guy with the white hair. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Actually, thank you for asking that. I feel like sometimes we don't explain these things, and it might be good for context, because I think
it's been about 3 years since that scene.
Yeah, so, and a lot of people don't know this movie like backwards and forwards.
Well, who would know? See, who would know that? Who would know Ross's?
Yeah.
That's the whole this whole movie.
Well, you didn't have the Ross action figure, Jer?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. This movie it's just like a sieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just everything falls right. Not even to the bottom. There isn't a bottom. It just falls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I have a comment about this minute. Well, I mean, if you want to go to yours first, but the thing I really liked about this minute is that, we get an opening shot here of a mom driving her son to fencing practice. I mean, here
that must have taken you back.
It's like a soccer mom, but it's fencing mom. In fact, some of the dialogue that's going to come later, she's giving advice and stuff.
Probably got orange slices in the glove compartment.
Gatorade.
Do you think Mutt wanted to take fencing, or do you think it was a case where Marion was like, she made him, and he's like, all right, whatever.
Oh, jeez.
Well, fencing.
All the other fellas are taking shop.
It's like it's like Tom trying to make Sam do something, and Sam's like, "Come on, Dad, I don't want to do that."
Well,
Tom's
I have an idea.
Play the oboe.
I think that you see he's really good with a blade. He keeps pulling out that switchblade, doing all these tricks with it. So my guess is at one time he was playing around with it, and Marion's caught him with the switchblade and said, no, we have to make this into a productive type of thing. You're doing fencing.
Just think of it as a really long switchblade that's always engaged. Yeah.
That's like you catch your kid smoking and you make him smoke the whole pack. That's like, I'm going to make him hate that switchblade by making him go to school for fencing.
No sharp objects ever.
But at least like if you're doing like gym or whatever and you're like fencing, you're like, oh, that'll be like it's a combat sport. And as opposed to like,
that's the fun
volleyball.
Yeah. I agree. Right.
Well, it's interesting with fencing, though. It's not a sport that you find outside of maybe the college circuit. Very rarely would you find something like that in high school. I can tell you that I took fencing back when I was in college because I wanted to do some sort of a different type of sport. And it really came down to either fencing, lacrosse, or rugby. And I wasn't quite built for rugby. And lacrosse is kind of like soccer in a way, a lot of running, and I don't know, it didn't really work. But when I was going to orientation at UCLA, there was a fencing booth basically, and so that's why I decided to do it.
See, with your sport choices, it sounds like you were going to Dead Poets Society.
Yeah. If you joined the rugby team, you would have been like one of the jerk guys.
I kind of grew up in the Midwest as more of a football thing, but there used to be there's a college at John Carroll University, and their rugby team would practice right across from my house, and I would watch them all the time, and I mean it really seems like a disaster. I mean, talk about like a fracas, and just in like the shirts. Everybody had the beautiful shirts with like the blue and the red and the blue and the red stripe.
That's why you get into it.
Yeah, that's why you get into it. Like the row, the white and the green and the white and the green, and then the buttons are like rubber. And you're like, yes, because everybody's like chewing on them.
It's the only protection you have. It's the only padding you have in the entire game is those buttons.
And like people would lose their teeth, and everybody.
I read an article that everybody who's ever played rugby is dead now. They all died playing rugby.
I'm glad you went with fencing, Josh.
It's like there's that big I don't know what it is. It's like this enormous gang carbuncle in the middle of the field with everybody pushing one way and pushing the other way. It's just this petri dish of blood and sweat and bacteria, and somewhere in there is a white ball. Yeah, and it's slippery. I don't know. It just seems like I know it's a very manly man. It makes football seem like the easy way out.
Don't they decide like at halftime, like at the beginning of the next? Doesn't the ref hold? Okay, how many teeth do I have in my hand? And that's how they decide like who kicks off first or whatever. They just pick up whatever was left from the first half.
I always wondered: is it more or less dangerous that they don't wear, like, say, helmets or something like that? Because I had somebody tell me once, no, actually, there are fewer injuries because you're not wearing a helmet and you're not wearing pads.
That sounds like the dumbest argument I've ever heard.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. It's the seatbelt that kills you.
Yeah.
Well,
Pop your head off like a cork.
yeah.
Well, Mutt's not doing rugby though. He's doing
No.
sword fighting, and
Yeah.
I had
that's
a
right.
couple of interesting things just to say here. Would this scene have been even better if there were two bags in this? Because you see, the first thing he does, he snags it with his sword and he flips it over into the back seat of Mom's duck.
Mhm.
What if there were two bags and one was filled with sand as a decoy? You get to call back to the idol scene in
Yeah.
Raiders and
Yeah,
the
I like
Cairo
that.
basket chase switcheroo.
Yeah. I
Oh,
like
nice.
That would be good. That would be good. One question I have about this. So Mutt ambushes Spalko and he snatches the crystal skull. Now, since he had the element of surprise on his side, why didn't he just run Spalko through with the saber?
Right.
And then it's like the
Yeah.
credits roll
Yeah.
and we all go home and get ice cream.
Do you love me now, Dad?
that.
I killed the
It's
Russian lady.
Spalko. She would have never allowed that, right?
Well, he's not prioritizing correctly. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
they need the skull, sure. It's like, okay, the skull's the most important thing. But had he just, killed Spalko, then, maybe the driver would have been like, no. And like the whole jungle chase would kind of come to
Yeah.
like one of those slow
I feel like I should
no-
pull over.
that
Well, do they
noise
need
that-
her alive though to be able to channel the skull somehow? or they
No,
just don't care?
no, she's
See, I
the
don't think they-
opposite.
yeah.
She's the opposite of do we need her alive? The skull just gives her the hand.
That's the option.
She's a leaky faucet. She's not any kind of conduit.
I mean,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
Indy's end game here? Is it again? It belongs in a museum, or is he going to bring it back to where it was? Or
The last thing he said was, "We got to get to Akator with the skull before the Russians do," but I don't know why he wants to do that.
Maybe it's I feel like it's more of a American hero. Let's stop the Soviets from getting it.
I guess so, but even
But
yeah,
I
but
don't
stop
know.
them from. I've said this 1,000 times, but you stop them from getting it and go somewhere else. Go to Iowa.
Yeah,
with it.
that's true.
Like, get as far away from Akator as you can.
This is true.
Right. Well, we say his adventures are always, this mess shows up on his doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
And that. So to be fair, I guess he, with the exception of the Idol and Raiders, none of these things is he, is ever his idea.
Yeah, but he gets along the way. He gets into the idea.
Yeah.
With all the other ones, like
Yeah.
the Shankara stones, he's like, "Oh my gosh, he's a Shankara stones," and like with the Grail, he's
Yeah.
like, "Really, the Grail? Okay. Oh, and I also have to get my dad. Okay,
Yeah.
so like there's something, but like with the skull, he's like, the high point of his interest in it is, what is this thing?
Yeah.
Like he's kind of tickled by it. He's pretty neat, but there's no like, oh my god, I've seen the light. I got to get it to Akator. Oh my
tickled
gosh,
by it.
he is. He's absolutely just
He just turned
delighted.
85. Yeah.
gosh, it's a crystal skull.
I like there's another little deleted part here. When Indy and Mutt when Mutt and Spalko start fighting, car to car like this, Indy's in the other car and he shouts, "Mutt, get out of there, Marion, turn off, watch out." And Oxley starts to stand up, I think maybe to reach out for the skull. And Mac pushes him back down in the seat and he looks up and sees Mutt and he says, "Greaser thinks he's Errol Flynn."
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That one I
think
don't
the
think goes
audience would have
anywhere.
known who Errol Flynn is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good question. I think
Mm.
most would probably not.
Pete, I have a question. You are our resident, I listen to the soundtrack guy. Now, watching this, and I know, well, you might have it memorized, but sing the music. Like if you had to make up the music to this scene, just sing it right now.
I cannot sing it, but I did.
Well,
get
play it
very
with your
strong-
mouth.
I know that music. You're talking about the Mutt Williams theme?
Just, I didn't think it was that specific. Is this the Mutt Williams theme?
It is. There is. Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. It's kind of like the indie theme, but a little more
See,
playful,
I-
perhaps.
Really?
The vibe I got from Mutt's theme is more. It feels a lot like arriving at Jurassic Park.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Which to me,
sort of
it
sped up.
didn't really feel like it fits in this fight scene as much.
Well, the reason I brought it up is I'm not saying it's a bad theme at all, but it does. We know while watching this again that there's just no danger. No one is in danger, and nothing bad is going to happen. And we're going to watch some family fun swashbuckling, and you can tell by the music that it's just kind of like it's sort of lighthearted. I don't know.
It's playful.
Like it's playful. It's like I don't know, Pirates of Penzance or something.
Yes,
it is. No, it actually does sound a lot. I wrote that down actually. Pirates of Penzance.
That's good.
When they're sword
And
fighting,
you're
it's
like,
that kind of jaunty kind of we're sword. It's not like we're sword fighting. It's like hooray, we're sword fighting.
Yeah, it's like hooray, we're sword fighting. Exactly. So it goes with their coloring. There's a color to this movie. Yeah, very sort of family friendly fun. Not a lot of danger. I'm not really worried.
Right.
See, I feel like the John Williams really nailed a lot of the music in this movie, but I just for some reason this part I don't quite get into as much.
But I've barely noticed any of the music in this movie, to be honest.
Well, what did you think about the sound effects, though? Especially in this thing. I mean, you really hear the swooshes and the clangs.
Yeah. And the punch, she punches it. She gets the cannon punch too.
Oh yeah.
Now, I can tell you, having done the sword fighting, if you were to wonder how close is this to real life, they're actually not too far off.
Really?
You do hear clangs like that when you do sword fighting, at least on the collegiate and Olympic level. You don't really hear the swooshes quite so much. I mean, it does make a noise, but not as loud as that. Maybe
if you leave a minor cut on somebody's cheek, does it sound like you've taken his head off? Like there's that slice sound when like it's close up of like she's got the sword next to his face. Yeah, and it's like she's like cutting a summer ham or something. But then when you see him next, it's like a tiny little line of blood.
Okay,
the closest I know about that is because you wear the beekeeper masks basically when you're doing fencing, so you hear this kind of hideous scraping across the front.
God.
This I do not understand this at all. It's second 42, and Mutt he block catches Spalko's sword. And I'm like, okay, is that because she's using this single-sided saber? And so she is the edge of the sword sharp? Or are these like McDonald Playland swords?
She may be using like an epee, because those they're not sharp. They're blunt along the side. Yeah, it should have spurted blood at that point.
No, I mean his hand should be like on the jungle floor right now, and his where his head should just be like a halved watermelon. I mean, I do not understand. He catches the sword with his hand, and then she pulls the sword away.
Yeah, she pulls the sword away.
Back.
You do hear like a sploosh sound, too.
You hear a sploosh sound that is the opening of his veins. Which, by the way, as you guys, I can't tell. I remember we may have talked about this, but when I was in 9th grade, this happened to me with a butter knife. Yes, my friend Pat. My friend Pat Coward. I said he was buttering toast. And I said, he had the knife. I said, give me that. And he said, no. And I reached out and I grabbed the butter knife. And as I did, I kind of grabbed like the handle of the butter knife. And as I did, he goes, no. And he pulled away and the butter knife split right between my thumb and my index finger. And it was it was there was the webbing, and I looked down, and it didn't hurt at all. But it was like a hot singe, and I didn't hurt. And then I looked down, and I'll never forget this like pocket of what once was my hand. Just the envelope opened up, and like there was just this pool of red, and I had to go get stitches. Okay.
Yikes.
I had to go get stitches in between the webbing of my hand. Okay, I tell the story because it was a butter knife. that did that. Now this, you mean to tell me this clown catches this sword with his hand and then she pulls the sword away?
That is pretty weird.
Maybe
That's
he has
really-
flesh-colored gloves.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I live this real life with a butter knife.
Yeah.
It's a very, very strange choice. And I'm not understanding, because if she is coming at his face and that's a dull end of the blade, then you're kind of like, why is she swatting his head with the dull end of the dull end? If it's a single-sided blade with only one side of it is sharp, why is she cutting at him with the dull end? Unless it's just kind of some sort of thwack you across the face, like you numbskull. And then he catches it, and then so when she pulls the sword away, his entire hand is wrapped around the blade.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, why would you do that and have no blood, there's no anything at all? Like, they fully show you that, and then there's no injury at all.
I think they
actually,
edited the
speaking of
movie in the
that-
dark. And they didn't know that was in the movie.
I mean, there's just not much blood in this film.
Yeah.
And then the question I had is, are the films getting less bloody with each one? I mean, certainly, Raiders, you've got some amazing blood scenes, with the German mechanic and, melting tote and everything. There was, what was the guy who gets crushed in the machine in Temple
yeah,
Run?
Yeah.
Toad is more like a slurry.
Slurry. Was there blood in the third one?
Yeah. Blood. Makes it more palatable.
The only blood in the third one I can remember was like maybe when he whips himself in the face and he's got that, the cut on his cheek.
Oh, there's also blood where Sean Connery gets shot.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
true.
And you also got the guy,
but
whose
even
head
that's like
comes rolling back.
But that's totally bloodless.
That's
true.
bloodless.
That's
like
actually,
a mannequin head.
Yeah, it's
Wax
like
museum,
it's polite. I'm just like, what they so frequently do in movies, when somebody swings a sword and somebody goes to sort of intercept it, they step in and they grab the person's arm, right? They block the arm that's coming at them, right? They step into it and block the arm. I'm like, I don't get this. That's what I'm saying. Why he should have ducked, or he should have blocked the arm, or he should have blocked it with the sword, or picked up a gas can, something.
They shouldn't have time for take two. That's what he was supposed to do, and they just didn't do it.
Or he catches it and he's injured.
Yeah.
Well, I have some things about just the sword fighting in general.
Okay.
So if you watch the scene, and I was brought on at one point for Princess Bride Minute to talk about the sword fighting in that one.
Yeah.
And this one is similar. I mean, it's another one of those sort of swashbuckling school of fencing. Jerry was right. This is a swashbuckling type of sequence. But if you watch Mutt, he actually has pretty decent footwork, especially because he doesn't have anywhere to move forward or backward. But throughout the whole thing, I mean, he seems like he's off balanced. He's just making a whole bunch of these swipes and these forward lunges. And when you do sword fighting, at least on the fencing side, generally you don't want to have your offhand in the front, because why? It's a target. It could get hit just like anything else. So most people, when they do collegiate and Olympic fencing, they'll have their sword hand, the offhand, either on their hip or behind them. And he doesn't do that. I mean, if you watch, his non-sword hands all over the place. But then if you compare that to Spalko, she has a much better form. She actually does have her offhand on her hip out of the way. She parries well. The only thing is that she's doing all these wild swipes, it's mostly to counter all the wild stuff that Mutt's doing. But an interesting thing, if you do Olympic style fencing, if you were to try to do these same wild swipes all the time, you pull your arm back to this big, wild, powerful swipe. Anybody who's a quicker fencer, they'll just have their sword out there and they'll just do this really quick thrust just to get the point. That's it. As soon as you pull your arm back. So we were always told to not do that. It's all about quick, short movements.
No, that makes sense. I remember, I took fencing in college too, and because the other choice was rugby, and I remember you're holding the blade out, and the way you'd parry it was kind of like you had to work out, like, you just move your wrist, right? Wasn't that
Yes.
kind of that you just slightly move your wrist? And I remember them saying, like,
Right.
you just have to move your wrist like an inch or so, a half
Yeah.
an inch or an inch, and then that will completely parry your opponent's blade.
That's right. Yeah, it's all about trying to do as little movement as possible so
Yeah.
that you can go in and get that quick touch.
Yeah.
Do you think Spalko trained on a moving truck, and that's why she's more balanced? Than what? She's just handling the situation better.
That
would be good training.
I think so.
I'll say, you know what? I like the scene. I mean, I don't like that it's McDonald's Playland so much, but I like the cinematography. I like how it's for swashbuckling. It's very good. You know, if you're like, I'm gonna have fun. You know, it's shot
sword
well
fight on a couple of trucks.
Yeah, sword fight on they do the sword fight on a couple of trucks pretty well. It's pretty cool and it's fun to watch.
And you notice that Jones is amused at the sword fight. There's a little shot of him kind of smirking.
Yeah, he's
got that
what do
kind
you
of
think he's
smirk.
having a flashback to when they show that? It's probably the Arab swordsman he murdered in the
They
marketplace.
should have just shot her in the gut. He'll learn. I keep saying this, but I got to say it again. Somebody explain to me why they needed a tree cutter in this forest. Because they left that thing about 3 miles back and they are still just driving 2 trucks side by side on this Autobahn-like thoroughfare through the jungle.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that thing still going?
No, it blew
off. That got taken out.
It went off?
A couple minutes ago, yeah.
It was very efficient.
Yeah.
Speaking of blowing up, Marion gets birds.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Or stars.
Yeah.
She gets punched in the face by a tree or something.
Yeah. It's like this complete Street Fighter, like birds. Like she's completely woozy. She's like, oh.
I watched that scene about 12 times because it was so strange.
Yeah.
That feels like there's a missing scene or something.
Yeah,
Or a missing moment before or after that or something.
Well, it's like the tree from Poltergeist.
It just 1,000.
It's just like it's very violent.
Yeah, it's
ironically,
visceral.
it's much more violent than the sword fight. I mean,
but it doesn't lead to any nothing. Is it? I watched it again, and the next minute too. I cheated a little bit. I watched the next minute, even though we're not going to talk about that until next week. But is that why it starts at the end of this minute too? Is that why the trucks are suddenly going a little farther apart? Like, is she kind of out of it and she's like sort of drifting to the side or something?
No, here's what it was. She was giving Mutt. She was being a helicopter parent.
Yeah,
she was giving Mutt all the whatever. Remember to repost and all that
she
stuff.
She was being helpful, I think.
It was kind of saying like, isn't this cute? Oh yes, we are in a serious truck chase. That's all. Like she was getting lost in watching her son perform. That's what it was.
And so the jungle punched her for that?
Yes, the jungle punched her for that. Yes.
Seems mean.
Well, do you think that was scripted, or it looks like it could almost be real? I mean, the glass breaks and it's painful.
Yeah, it does. It does look. It does look like it's
rough.
real.
Though her hair still looks good after it whaps her.
Always.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one thing about the sword fight I wanted to ask you guys. If you notice, it wouldn't be a Hollywood sword fight without that whole, swing at the legs and jump over the sword technique.
Yeah.
So has there ever been a Hollywood movie where the sword fighter fails to jump over the sword and he gets cut below the knees?
Oh, that'd be great.
That's a good question.
Oh,
Monty Python.
Monty Python and the
Holy
Grail.
Yes, you win the
Happens
prize,
a couple of
Tom.
times. No, Pete and I got it at the same time.
Better.
Yeah. Also, in every Hollywood sword fight, there has to be a moment where the two duelists come face to face, and one of them says something quippy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And here we get, "You fight like a young man, eager to begin, quick to finish," and then she punches him in the gut.
Oh, Well,
I mean, but I'm queuing it up. Anybody can say whatever they want.
There's something that sounds very sexual about that.
Oh, absolutely.
It was intended to, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about.
They play this footsie with her being sexual, but she doesn't.
That'll come up in the next minute to me.
Oh.
Okay. I was gonna say it doesn't match. It's like she's way too. She doesn't match. She's too old for Mutt. She's too young for Indy.
Has she been? I mean, I'm totally spacing on when before this they've played cutesy with her being sexy or something.
There's once or twice where she kind of either leans in for like.
She touches Indy's knees or whatever.
There's deleted stuff where she was a little more frisky with Indy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they make it's like they femme fatale are like it's like light. Femme fatale light.
Yeah. So light that you don't even notice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So light that just there's no one there to seduce.
She only comes onto a kid long enough to punch him.
You say she's too old for Mutt, and I don't know if that's true, but I think that would have been much more interesting if she had been into Mutt or Mutt had been into her.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm not saying she's too old. I'm just saying that's not a connection that they make.
Yeah.
I guess outside this one line.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. That's kind of the one thing that I feel is missing from Mutt's character. He doesn't have a female interest. Not really, unless it's his mom.
He was eyeballing Marion, oddly.
It got a little weird for a second.
But I mean, that's kind of missing. This is the least sexy of all the Indiana Jones. I mean, like literally, like there's no Indy has. I mean, the love interest is Marion, who he's already kind of emotionally married to anyway, and it's not like they're pitching woo or anything, to quote Christy Porter. But there's no sexy fun times or anything.
But I think it's hard to do that because, I mean, Marion is the love interest. And so I feel like she has to be the center. And I feel like, especially American audiences probably aren't as excited about a 60-year-old love interest.
Yeah, but they could have done something.
I mean, like to make it, if you're talking about making it sexy time.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. I mean, I think Indy and Marion could use a little of that in this movie. Like, not like Bantu Wind business, but just like something, like she gives him a big moony grin when he says, "Hey, there was nobody like you, doll face," or whatever. But that's about it. There's no like, I don't know. I can't think of any like, that's my Marion, hey, you're something like, they don't seem that into each other. Like,
he's not tickled.
I've known you a long time.
Yeah, he's not tickled by the sight.
Yeah, he should be tickled by Marion as much as he's tickled by the skull.
Can you imagine calling someone doll face?
Yeah,
that's
horrible.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Hey, mannequin puss.
He's a doll. It's creepy as hell.
Your eyes, when I tilt you back, your eyes go to sleep, and then when I tilt you back forward, they go open up again. That's really beautiful.
One Halloween, Amy bought maybe 40 vintage dolls on the internet, on eBay and stuff, and just filled the front little part in front of the house with them on Halloween.
That's incredible.
Oh my God.
Everybody thought it was the creepy, like everyone was coming, I was like, this is the creepiest house I've ever.
That's brilliant.
That is
Halloween thing I've ever seen. So creepy.
My mom bought for my sister these Madame Alexander dolls, which are just like very, I guess, high end, just completely creepy dolls. Like it was like, oh, there's like a Cinderella and a Scarlett O'Hara and stuff. And they'd be in my sister's room, and my sister was terrified of them. And she told me much later, like every night before she went to bed, she'd be like, "Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, thank you for being my friends. Oh, you're so, wow, okay, good night." Because she wanted to be super nice to them so they didn't kill her in her sleep. She thought they were going to kill her if she did anything wrong.
Oh, they're pretty creepy looking, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I'm not mad at Spalko's line. It's kind of funny. It's one more.
I like
swipe.
Spalko's line.
She's got the swipe of the blade. She's got the liver or kidney spleen punch, and then she also just kind of attacks his manhood too.
But why does she? Okay, but why does she assume that he'd be quick to finish in the euphemism way, but also like they're not finished with their fight? Like why is she assuming that he's quick to finish in a fight?
Well, I think she's in her mind. It's finished.
She's finishing it right now.
She punches him right then, and he
kind
of falls over.
But in a way, ironically, she would be quick to finish then.
That's right.
Yeah.
There are other euphemistic things I could say, but I'm not going to because it's a show.
It's like she's or something.
See, that's exactly the kind of thing I wasn't going to say.
She's not actually. She's not.
Yeah.
But.
What did he say?
she should have pushed him back and stepped back and, taken up her position again. Pete, I have a question for you. What do you do like a young man?
Very little.
Yeah.
I've turned into a really old man. Like I go to bed at like 8 o'clock and eat dinner
8?
super early, and
That
no,
does
not
sound
8,
great.
but I do go to bed early and I wake up early and I like an old guy.
I think I eat like a young man. I
Yeah.
eat like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
No reason I should still be alive. The way I eat.
Josh, what do you do like a young man?
I can play younger parts through voiceover. I can
Oh,
take
yeah.
Oh, there you
roles
go.
in my 20s and
Yeah.
sometimes even teens if I try
Nice.
for it.
Well, wait a minute. How do you
Been
do
lucky.
that? Wait, do the thing right now. Do a teen thing. Do it.
Let me see. If I wanted to do something as a teen,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
let's see. That would be okay,
Put it-
hey, what are you gonna do? We're gonna go over there? Oh, come on, no, come on.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
You can do
Wow.
it. Yeah, there you go.
It's very Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. I could hear the
When I was
slingshot in
going
your
into
back
Tashi
pocket.
Station to pick up some power converters.
How about you, Gerald?
I mean, what don't I do?
What
as
do
a
you
young
not
man?
do as a
Yeah,
young-
it's
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah,
I'm not responsible in any way, so in that sense,
yeah.
Yeah.
You
I live my
like
life as a young man.
Spend money like a young man. It means you have no money.
yeah.
Right.
I contribute to my Roth IRA like a young man.
So with top Star Wars cards.
Yeah.
You'll appreciate.
Well, speaking of appreciation,
Okay.
Oh.
yeah. Let's see. This just in from Professor Christy Porter. Do that as a teen. What sport could Mutt have participated in that would have ruined this scene?
Oh, if they played rugby across the two trucks, that would have been great. I don't know how it would have worked.
With this crystal skull.
Yeah. Just like tucked in their arms, just like stiff arming each other.
Kicking it.
Yeah.
Well, that's coming in the next minute, actually.
I guess it is
Pretty close, right?
That's a good question. Yeah.
It kind of looks
water
like he's
polo.
playing croquet, actually, at the end of the clip when he starts getting into the rubber legs position. Like one of those
Oh, yeah.
those gates they go over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen. Thank you, Josh, for coming back.
A pleasure.
It was an excellent surprise. And how would you feel about being a nice surprise next week as well?
Oh, yes. Count me
All
in.
right. I mean, we
Nice.
can spoil the surprise, but it'll still be fun.
Well, you will be our first three-peat this year, right?
Wow.
Since we went to one episode a week, I think that might be true. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm honored.
It's like the
Look
old
at that.
days.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Not bad. And in the meantime, everybody, if you don't feel like waiting a week to hear us talk about fun stuff, you should check us out over at our Patreon bonus show, Anything Goes, over at patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute. Yeah, Indiana Jones Minute. You can not only get postcards from me and Pete and Jerry every month, you can get early access to this show, and you can get our bonus show, Anything Goes, which, honest to God, I don't think we said enough about it. It's a fantastic show. I mean, people stop me on the street sometimes and say, I love Indiana Jones Minute, but, hearing you guys talk about like Star Wars and Close Encounters and Jaws and E.T. and stuff, and that horrible episode of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, that's pretty brilliant. That's awesome. You guys sound happy, and I love it. So go check it out over there. It'll help us out, and it'll help you out. And in the meantime, come back here for minute 81 of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, right here on the good old-fashioned Indiana Jones Minute.
Repost.
Repost!